What's up, gents? Brian Bandas here. Happy Friday. So glad to be talking to you again this morning about the most important thing in your legacy, and that is building a beautiful family legacy and a powerful, fulfilling marriage. And today we're going to talk about two things in response to the last email and the last video. We're going to talk about slippery slopes. We're going to talk about unintended consequences. Let's start there. After I made the last video, in which I talked about spending some time as a young man living in the Texas Baptist Children's Home with my mom, I had a phone call with my dad, who had seen the video, and he follows all the married man stuff. And he said, here's what I really want people to know. And by the way, my dad is a very gracious, very loving person. And yeah, he's got some mistakes in his past, but I'm very fortunate that I'm able to have really candid conversations with him about this stuff. And the beauty is, he owns it. And we talk about that a lot. He owns it. He owns the mistakes, and he has since owned the responsibility for building a really wonderful marriage, which I'm happy to say that he has now. So he says, Brian, for years, I couldn't even drive past this place. It's down in Round Rock, Texas. I couldn't even drive past that place without feeling immense pain. Sometimes I would take a route just to avoid it. I didn't want to drive past it because I had put my family and my children in a position where they lived in this home, and that was so painful to me. And he said, do you think I ever even came into my mind that my children would be living there? Absolutely not. You know, there's that feeling that all of us have. We're like, man, that couldn't happen to me. And he had that about that situation. That couldn't happen to me. It couldn't happen to my kids. My dad owns a construction company, right? I'm set. I'm good. We'll never fall that far. You know, that kind of thing. He said, these are the unintended consequences that we don't think about. And when we don't take care of our business that's in front of us, we don't know. We don't know what types of unintended consequences we're going to run up against. So that was obviously very moving and very powerful and somewhat emotional conversation. But man, I see that in myself. Like, what are the chances that me, you know, a sharp, I would think, relatively successful person, my kids end up in a place like that? In my mind, it's just not possible, and that is not true. And if I don't take care of my business, that is not impossible. And so that's the first thing, unintended consequences. The second, and it ties in, is the slippery slope. And how we ended up there was the slippery slope. It's one conversation where my dad didn't take care of business or my mom didn't take care of business, where they didn't say something that needed to be said, or they didn't have the maturity to swallow their pride. And then it's a second conversation. And then it's, oh, we've gone a year and we've grown apart and now we're not going to put in the work. And finally, we give up and we bail out. And the family falls apart, and the next thing you know, it goes from the first time that one of them didn't take emotional responsibility, slippery slope, all of a sudden you wake up and you're driving past the Texas Baptist Children's Home where your children live and you never saw it coming. That's unintended consequences. That's the slippery slope. So we don't talk a ton about fidelity. I think there's a lot more to a fulfilling marriage than just not cheating. Like, congrats, that is probably step 0, step 1. Let's just hang in there and be faithful. But there's so much more. There's so much better than just, all right, well, I hung in there. I was miserable, but I was there, right? So we don't talk a lot about it. But I do think what my friend John had to say in response to the conversation about fidelity was the idea that, man, I didn't see that coming. I didn't think it was possible for me to fall into that. And so we just give on little things. We let it slide. We let it slide. And then all of a sudden we look up, as he said, and we go, oh my God, what have I done? Slippery slope, unintended consequences. Man, have the humility to understand that none of us, not you, not me, are too good, too powerful, you know, too holy, too committed, whatever, that kind of crap can't happen to us. It can. But the good news is I can have a willingness to acknowledge that reality and go, man, I'm flawed, right? Like, let's be honest. I'm a selfish asshole sometimes. It's the reality of being a human being. And if I am willing to admit that and to see that, and I can have enough humility to at least go, yeah, I'm kind of a douche. I'm kind of selfish sometimes. Then I can begin to do the work of equipping myself and protecting my family from that selfishness. You guys are awesome. It is a privilege to talk to you every week. I will see you on Monday.